Hi, this is Rabbi Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. And whether you're watching on Torah Anytime or wherever you watch or listen to your podcasts, it's nice to have you along. I'm trying to get back onto schedule. It's been a little difficult for me. I mentioned this in my last podcast, that it's hard to summon up the energy during this time to really do what we have to do. But that's part of it. I'll tell you another reason. I was asked to speak about the situation with the coronavirus. I mean, gosh, it's all anybody is talking about day and night. Everybody's locked up in their houses, and they're just going through this. So I put out a podcast, and I basically made a point that now everybody's making, which is, what's the cost to destroying the economy? What's the cost to people not being able to have jobs? What? And now everyone's making this point. Yeah, I just made it a little earlier. And I received some really horrible responses, horrible, very nasty, and which I really can't understand, because no one's making you listen to this. This is click on it, or you decide not to click on it. I don't know why anybody has to listen to it and get offended and get angry and then say nasty, really, really horrible things. I every now and then I get a terrible email, but when it's like really terrible, I know the guy's crazy. Yeah, it's clear the person's crazy. Yeah. My usual response is, thank you for sharing your opinions. This person's crazy, so I don't mind humoring someone who's crazy, but the amount of really negative responses. Not that anybody had anything else. So some people decided to attack me on, is it the flu? Is it not like the flu? Okay, it's not exactly like the flu. But now that the statistics are coming out, more and more studies are showing that the death rate is a lot closer to the flu. Yeah, because they just haven't tested everybody, and they're starting to test people and find out that everybody had it. My brother, so stark, he's older than me. He had a quadruple bypass. He got the corona and he got better. And his wife had no symptoms, but she must have gotten it because she was living with him. And there's a lot of people who are just asymptomatic. It doesn't even pop up. So anyway, this was the point that I was trying to make. And there were only two responses that I got that is inspiring me to make this podcast. And I'll share them with you. Two comments. One comment was, I feel like if you would have made this podcast later, you would have said something different. That was number one. Number two is, I don't think being in Eretz Yisrael, you appreciate how terrible things are here in New York. And that is true. It's true. We've had less than 200 deaths here in Eretz Yisrael. And most of the deaths in America are in New York and New Jersey. I mean, like the tremendous percentage. And so it's become something incredibly devastating. And I realized that my points that I was making, although technically correct, were definitely insensitive to the situation, because we have lost so many people. My brother in West Hempstead is in a relatively small shul, and he just went through story after story of people who passed away, people who lost both their parents, people. My brother told me, he's in Muncie, and he says they had 6 levayas a week. So it's true. It's true. The situation in New York is dramatically different than here in Eretz Yisrael. And yeah, if I had realized how devastating the situation would be for so many people, I would have probably said something else. No question about it. But that's not the biggest point that I want to make, because although those two things gave me pause, I'll tell you what is the main inspiration for what I want to do. I have people who have listened to all of my shiurim for years. I got an email not that long ago from somebody who just discovered my podcast, went back and listened to all of them. So I'm going to have a conversation with the average Rabbi Orlofsky crazy out there. And there are. I know this. I've met them. There are people who listen to everything I say. And the problem with that is that they can say it right back to you. So I'm going to have this conversation with the listener who I can just hear them saying it to me. Nobody actually said it to me, but Rabbi Orlofsky, what were you trying to accomplish with your podcast when you spoke about coronavirus? I said, it doesn't make any sense to close down the entire country. It's so dramatic, destroy the economy. 1 second. Were you suggesting people not listen to the Rabbanim? No, of course not. I said that clearly. Were you suggesting that people not listen to the doctors? No, of course not. So then what was your point? What was my point? My point was that I was in shock. That's my point. I was venting because I just couldn't believe that everybody is going to go into their houses and shut the door, and everyone's going to lose their jobs, and millions of people are going to be thrown into unemployment, and the airlines are going to close down, and the hotels are going to close down, and I just couldn't believe it. Okay, Rabbi Orlofsky, I hear that, and I really hope you're feeling better now. But let me tell you something that I've heard you say many times. You said the biggest problem in Yahadus today is relevance. That a kid will say to his Rebbe, when he's learning Gemara, Rebbe, why am I learning this? What do I need this for? I don't own an ox, and I don't plan on buying one. I don't run through the street with pictures. If I divorce my wife, it'll be in Beis Din. I won't throw the get from my roof into her chutzah where it catches on fire on the way down. So your whole point is relevance. So here we are, for weeks, locked up in our houses because of this coronavirus, and we're turning to you for understanding. Whoa, back up. Me? You want me to explain why this is? Who am I? What am I, a Navi? Yeah, how can I know? Rabbi Orlofsky, you're the only one out there not doing that. No, come on. And I can send you copies of WhatsApps and emails and videos where everybody and his brother knows why this is happening. It's because of this Sefira, and it's because of that Sefira, and we're nichshel in this, and we're weak in that, and the gashmius, and the ichmeis, sheitlach, whatever it is. Yeah? And there are people who are ready to sit down and say, chapter and verse, this is why this is happening. Such a gaiva? Such gaiva? Somebody's going to stand up and say, this is happening because you did this or you did that? I'm stunned. I'm beyond comprehension. Yeah, we'll live with it because it's happening. And everyone is turning to you as a voice of reason. That just shows you how terrible our generation has become. That you're a voice of reason. Give us something that we can hold on to. Give us something that we can focus on. Excuse me. How can I possibly know? Zoe. So I heard you say on a shir once. You told the story. When Rabbi Siegel was in his 90s, he was a Rav in Newark, and he suddenly disappeared. And they made a gigantic search to try to find him. They didn't know where he was, and eventually they found that he drove his car into the Passaic River. And, so this was the father of Nachum Siegel, and Yigal Siegel, who I was friendly with, and I went to pay a shiva klal. And I walk in the house, and Yigal says, "Oh, good, Rabbi Orlofsky's here. I heard him say on a shir on suffering that we can understand why HaKadosh Baruch Hu does what he does. So he's going to explain to us why Zaidi died. Now, I really wasn't expecting that, but it's true. I did give different examples on my suffering tape about how, although we don't know for sure why something happens, when we say Yipashpesh b'ma'asav, yeah, that you have to try to look at what you did and try to figure out why this happened. There is a kind of making an equation. I may not be right, but I have to look into it. I'm obligated to look for an answer. I remember I said, well, give me some background because I don't know the whole story. He was in his 90s. He was a Rav in Newark for many, many years, and he still was there. That day, he had been on his son Nachum Siegel's show. And he was doing, banter with his son, and it was, yeah. And then he drove back through Newark, and it was a foggy day. And they showed me on Google Earth. They showed me it. There's a road. He made the turn down the wrong road. And this road doesn't have a barrier. And he drove in the fog right off into the river. I said, that can't be. You can't have a road like that. He says, a number of people have died. And they've complained about it. I said, unbelievable. I said, okay, so I will offer you my understanding of the situation. An old Rav in his 90s goes home, goes to sleep, dies in his sleep. Okay, everybody will come out. Listen, he lived a long life. It was, we'll talk about this, he did, that he did, and it would be okay. It's an amazing thing. I get this question when I do a question answer. How do you explain the death of young people? I said, you understand, implicit in your question is you don't mind if old people die. Old people die, that's okay, right? I don't have a question. I said, at what age is it okay for someone to die that you don't have a moral dilemma anymore? 30, 40, 50, 60? How old does someone have to be that you say, okay, well, that's okay. I don't have a question. I've got, no, I'm younger than that already. I have to ask a question. The answer is every death is a tragedy, whether it's a death of a child or a death of an old man. But our tendency is to say, okay, listen. My father, Vashalom, when he got the diagnosis that he had lung cancer, he says, listen, I have nothing to complain about. God's been good to me. Doesn't it say in Tehillim a person lives till 70? I made it till 70. Whatever happens, I have no complaints. And there are people who say, okay, listen, he was old, it's time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to remind us that every death is a tragedy. So he goes on to his son's show so everyone can hear him, that he's alert and he's sharp. And then there was traffic and there was rain, and so he took a shortcut because he knew Newark. And he made a wrong turn because of the fog. And then God's Klal Yisrael is turned upside down. They have to search for him. To remind us that every death is a tragedy. It's interesting that this is a virus that tends to kill, for the most part, older people. Most of the people who have died in the age groups are over 80. The next most group is over 70. And by a much smaller number, over 60. Less than that, the odds of dying of this is very small. Yeah, of course, there have been deaths, but it's much smaller. It's a virus that kills the elderly and the sick. So, but my point is, I heard you give this share, and you said that we can look at tragedy and try to understand it. So, okay, Rabbi Orlofsky, I turn to you for some kind of guidance in the middle of this coronavirus situation. It's right, it's wrong, we should be locked up, we shouldn't be locked up, eventually we're going to come out, we're all going to catch it. Fine. Right now, I've spent weeks in my house. My panos has been destroyed. I can't say Kaddish, for loved ones. Everything is disrupted. So give me guidance. I live downstairs from Zachariah Greenwald, the head of Maor Seminary. We have a little Mirpeset minion, a few families together. His son just had his bar mitzvah. We're throwing candies across the Mirpesot, social distancing. So what a way to spend your bar mitzvah, huh? And look how many people got married on Mirpesot. So let's try to understand, and I will share with you, having thought about this. I thought about this because of this conversation I'm having with you now. And whether or not you were able to articulate it or not, I will attempt to give you my read. I'm not going to say this is because your shaitel is too long or because your skirt is too short. I'm not going to say this is because you talk during davening or because you have a smartphone. I'm not doing any of that kind of stuff. I don't believe in that. You have to be a prophet to do that. I'll tell you what my insight is. I gave a shir recently. It's on Torah Anytime. It was on Parshas Bo, where I talked about matzahs. And that they added the water to the flour, put it on their back so they could knead it, and they baked it when they got out of Mitzrayim. Very long distance. Yeah, it still had not become chametz. The matzah that we eat is to remind us how quickly the geula can come. All right, now, you're in Mitzrayim. You have been slaves for 210 years. Well, you've been down there for 210 years. You've been suffering for over 80 years. Terrible pain. You've seen your children used as bricks. You've seen your wives miscarry into the mud and have to keep kneading those children into the bricks. You've seen children slaughtered for their blood. And every day you fall asleep and you get up and it's working and working, and their hands were bleeding from the thorns. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? There is a Rashi in V'yakel that is so filled with pathos. When they were building the Mishkan, so the women wanted to donate the little copper mirrors. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want these because they were used to fix yourself up, and they were for taiva, and the Mishkan. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, those are the most precious to me. You mean they're willing to give up their little copper mirrors? Why is there a Jewish people? Because the men had given up. Because men are logical. What's supposed to happen? I'm going to have a child in this Gehenna to die a terrible death, or best case scenario, be worked to death and beaten? Who wants to have children? And the wives would come home after avodas parach, also breaking work, and they would fix themselves up with their little mirrors as best as they could to interest their husbands, so that there would be children to bring out of Mitzrayim. I've never been a slave, and I've never been pregnant, and I've never been a pregnant slave. But Libi Omer, it probably isn't pleasant. If there was anybody who didn't want to get pregnant, you'd imagine it was the women. Because of the Nashim Sidkanios, we were saved from Mitzrayim, from Egypt. The righteous women. The men had already given up. The women could see beyond it to the Geula. And the men were like, what do you expect is going to happen? Oh, wait, no, I know. A guy will stir up with a magic stick. And I'll turn all the water to blood, and he'll make giant hailstones made out of fire fall from the sky, and you know what I mean? Maybe he'll split the sea so we can walk right through it. Right? Is that what you're anticipating? And the wife said, I haven't worked out all the details. Because that's not my job. That's God's department. God said he's going to save us, and he's going to redeem us, and he's going to take us out. How it's going to work, I don't know. I don't have to know. Come, work with me here for a minute. You believe Mashiach's going to come? Like that, Mashiach's going to come. Yeah? All of a sudden. Guy's going to ride in on a donkey. He's going to destroy all the armies and all the world powers and all the nuclear bombs and all the planes and all the tanks. He's going to take the Jews from all around the world. He's going to wish them to Eretz Yisrael. And all the nations of the world are going to recognize the Kadosh Baruch Hu. V'yah Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz. V'yamahu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad. And on that day, all the nations will recognize God, and then they'll rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. You know that dome that's over there now? That's going to go down. Boop, take that down. And the Beis Hamikdash is going to be put up. Either it's going to fall from the sky or we're going to build it. And that's it. The end. You see that happening in 18 minutes? I mean, come on, talk to me. Really? You really see that? How? Work it out for me. How's it going to be? How could this possibly be? The Brisker Rav said the way he escaped from the Nazis is that when he found himself in a dangerous situation, he only focused on one thing. Ein od milvadai. There is only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And nothing else matters. Don't worry about Iran's nuclear bombs. Don't worry about the missiles coming out of Gaza. Don't worry about Hezbollah digging tunnels. None of this. You don't have to worry about anything. All the anti-Semites, all the difficulty that's going on. It's nothing. Like that. Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to turn everything around, and Mashiach's going to come, and the world will be in total completion. Right? We have just received a notice that the King Messiah has arrived to establish God's kingdom on the world. All the Jews are being asked to please move to all of the local airports where they will be whisked to the Holy Land. Apparently the Dome of the Rock is gone. A building has fallen from the sky and taken its place. There is a cloud over it. We're trying to keep up with the story. Where is our correspondent in Rome? I'm standing here with the Pope. Pope, we were wrong. Excuse me? We were wrong. Christians, we were wrong 2,000 years. Whole thing was wrong. Take off the white one, put on a black one. That's it. I was wrong. What can I do? Everybody's gonna go, oh my God. And you know how long that's gonna take? Like that, less than 18 minutes is gonna happen. How is that even, you can even imagine such a thing? So Kadosh Baruch Hu says, watch this. Okay, Rabbi Orlofsky makes a podcast a year ago. And he says, here's my prediction. A year from now, the entire economy is going to shut down. There will be no airplanes flying. All of the airports will be shut. Everyone's going to be required to stay in their house and not allowed to leave except to go and buy food and medicine. Businesses are going to collapse en masse. Unemployment is going to go into millions and millions of people. And society as we know it is going to be destroyed. Thanks for watching. People would say, I knew the guy was crazy, but I mean, this crazy? How could that possibly happen? You know how it happened? Like this. In an instant. HaKadosh Baruch Hu closed down the world. Who could even imagine such a thing? And everybody is just stunned and nobody even knows what to do. And how are we supposed to react to this? How do we get out of this? You're going to wait a year and a half till there's a vaccine? I got news for you. They said they don't even know if there'll ever be a vaccine. I remember, I don't know if it was last year or the year before that, people went out, got their flu shots, and then the flu mutated. And the flu shot was no good against it. A lot of people were dying. This coronavirus has already mutated 30 times. So you're going to come up with 30 different vaccines? They don't know if they're even going to find one. They tried this medication, they tried that medication. Will this work? Will that work? So what are you going to do? Just keep everybody in the house forever? At some point, they're going to have to come out. And then they'll all get sick. Some of them are going to die. So what did we do in the meantime? Nobody said that by locking down, you're going to cure this. The only thing is that it would give, a little time for the hospitals to build more hospitals, get more respirators, So what did the whole lockdown do? It did one thing for sure. It showed the entire world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can close down the world, take an economy that was on fire, the least amount of unemployment. The stock market reached the highest it had ever been. Airlines were on their way to having one of the best years ever. In Eretz Yisrael, the tourism was out of the roof. They had building new hotels, getting everything going. And it's all gone. El Al needs a bailout plan. It may not even be open anymore. You can't be an airline and pay your employees and have to pay off all these planes and not have anybody flying. That's a pretty simple business model. How could it be? How could such a thing happen? Because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do anything. I'm sure my fact checkers out there will remind me who, but there's a famous Hasidic story. I forgot who the Rebbe is. This rich guy comes to the Rebbe and he says, listen, Rebbe, I'm rich, I'm choshev, I have the respect of the entire community. I can basically do whatever I want. How could what do I need a HaKadosh Baruch Hu for? I'm doing great. So the Rebbe says to him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu could take everything away from you in a second. He says, it can't be. There's no way it can be. It can't happen. Okay. So the guy goes home and suddenly he gets this chukka in his brain. Something starts like temporary insanity. And he decides he wants to become a Christian. Wants to become a Christian. This will cost you a year. Wealthy man. Children and grandchildren. So he goes down to the church and he says to the priest, I want to convert. So the priest looks at him and he says, come on, don't pull my leg. Everyone knows you're an important member of the Jewish community. There's not a chance you're going to convert to Catholicism. You're just trying to make fun of me. Just beat it. He says, no, this is the most important thing in my life. I have to let Christianity into my heart. I have to let Yashka in. I have to. He says, go away. He says, what can I do to prove my sincerity? The priest looks at him and says, takes out a piece of paper. And he says, sign here that you're signing over everything you own to the church. And the guy was in a frenzy and he was like, okay. And he signs the paper. And he says, fine, we'll have the baptism tomorrow morning. Okay. Meantime, we'll have people from the church evaluate how much you're worth. And, he goes back home and it passes. It was temporary insanity. I suddenly realized what he did. And now his life is over. And he goes running to the Rav, and he says, Rav, what am I supposed to do? My life is over. He says, what happened? So I don't know, suddenly I decided it was crazy. Like I wanted to convert to Christianity. He goes, what? Because I don't know why. And I went to the priest, and the priest made me sign a shtar signing over all of my things. That's it. I lost all my money. Not only that, I'll be a pariah in the community. No one's going to talk to me. No one's going to have anything to do with me. I lost everything. I lost my status. I lost my money. My whole life is over. The Rebbe says, I told you, Akash Baruch Hu could take everything away in a second. And the man started crying. He says, you're right. What can I do now? And he says to him, Akash Baruch Hu can take everything away from in a second, and he can give everything back in a second. So what do I do? Do tshuva. Ein od milvadai. There's nothing but Akash Baruch Hu. Bring that into your heart. Believe it with all you can. And he said there, Ein od milvadai, Ein od milvadai. There's only Akash Baruch Hu. He has everything. He could do anything. That night there was a fire in the church, and the church burnt down along with the priest and the shtar. And the whole thing was gone. He lost everything in a moment. He got everything back in a moment. Ein od milvadai. After the Twin Towers went down, I remember that Sukkot, I went to see with Moshe Shapiro, and he said, this is the beginning of Gog and Magog. This is the end. So at the time I was in Or Sameach. So I said to him, okay, so a guy walks in, not from bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. So, we start having classes, you have the basics, you talk through the basic things, you work them through. So should I pull a guy across and say, listen, nothing personal, but we don't have a lot of time left, so I suggest you get from really fast. This is the end of time. And Moshe gave me one of those looks, which if it was anybody else, he means that he would have yelled at him. But me, he just gave me one of those looks. And he didn't answer the question. And as I was leaving, he said to me, Rav Dovid Kimuvan, we have to keep doing what we're doing. What I'm talking about is up here. What you have to get people to understand is Ein od milvadai. Now, come on. If you're old enough to remember 9/11, and I would have come to you a week beforehand and said, the Twin Towers are going to collapse, turn into a pile of dust, you would have looked at me like I was out of my mind. Like that. Went down. Vanished. And what I heard somebody describe as bad 1970 disaster movie special effects. You just watched it go down, turn into a pile of dust. Ein od milvadai. Because Baruch Hu can do anything. He can destroy the entire economy, lock everybody up. Look at how many people have lost so many relatives and they can't say Kaddish for them. Can you ever imagine that? Listen, I lost both my parents before this, obviously. And, you always think about that. How much longer do I have? How much longer do I have a mother? How much longer do I have a father? What happens? And when they pass away, I'm going to daven for the Amid, and I'll learn Mishnayos, say Kaddish, And suddenly you lose both your parents like that? And I have to stay at home. Can you imagine? Could you wrap your head around such a thing? Hashem melech al kol haaretz. God will be king of the whole world. Bayom ahu, Hashem echad u'shmo echad. You want to know how it's going to work? You think it can't work? You think HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't do anything? Ein od milvadai. We have to recognize this. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can give us everything, and He can take everything away in a moment. Before the flour and water turns into chametz, the geula can come. The Mesilas Yesharim says that one of the important things in Avodas Hashem is hisbodedus. You need time alone to stop and think. Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us that gift. People are so busy. So some people are using the time to think. Some people are using it to watch videos, play on their phones. Someone said to me, "What's going on here?" And I said, "I'll tell you what it is. It's a very long airport flight. Yeah, you're up in the air and there's turbulence. You have to sit in your seat. So you got the little screen in front of you, you got your phone and whatever reading material, and that's it. They'll bring you around some food and some drinks. If you have to, you get up and go to the bathroom, and that's it. And you're just sitting in your seat. And you say, "Excuse me, stewardess, when are we going to land?" She says, "I don't know." "I know, but we've been up here already 6 weeks." I don't know. I can't answer when we're going to land. Would you like some more pretzels? So, when we do land and we do come out, and maybe it'll be, according to everybody, it's going to be a different world than the one we know. I remember they said that after 9/11. Novominska Zatzal, who we just lost in this. 9/11, he was interviewed, I think, by Time magazine, Time or Newsweek, which one, and he said, "The world will never be the same." 2 months later, I was going to speak in a school. I said, "What should I speak about?" They said, "Whatever you do, don't mention 9/11. Everyone's tired of hearing about it." This time, when we come out of this, I don't know that we're going to go back as fast to the world that we knew. I had to go shopping. Someone said, the rule is you have to wear a mask. I said, "No problem. I'm going as Donald Trump. I have a Donald Trump mask that I got for Purim." Turns out that's not what they meant. It makes sense, though, because Purim is a hapachu, and that's what this is. Everything's upside down, So I don't know what the new normal is going to be. Yeah, I don't know. A fellow in my share. Now it's on Zoom. My Daf Yomi share I give in the morning. Now it's on Zoom. And he announced that his daughter just became a cow. I said, "How do you do that socially distancing? I mean, from is from, but that's really quite an accomplishment." I don't know what the new normal is. I don't know what reality is going to be. I could never have anticipated this, and I sure can't anticipate what's going to happen. Maybe someone's going to show up with a stick and turn all the water to blood. I don't know. The one thing I do know is that we don't know. And that's why when you listen to these experts, they say the problem with this virus is we just don't know. Can you get reinfected? How many people actually have it? We just don't know. I remember during the second Intifada, we made a special special fast day, and we did Yom Kippur Katan in the yeshiva, Nor Sameach. Remember Weinbach, this was during the second Intifada. Ehud Barak was the prime minister. And they kept asking him, "What are you going to do?" He says, "Anachnu neida ma lasot." Anachnu neida. He had no idea. Anachnu neida. We know. And said Reb Mendel Weinbach, "You know what we say? V'anachnu lo neida." We don't know. So if I can give you one message in this time, Ein lo milvadai. Reb Mendel Weinbach loved to tell the story about this guy who falls off a cliff and he's holding onto a branch, and the branch is slowly breaking. And he says, "Is there anybody up there? Is there anybody up there?" And a voice says, "Yes, I'm here and I'm going to save you. But first you have to show your faith. Let go of the branch." The guy thinks about it and goes, is there anybody else up there? There's nobody else up there. Kaveh el Hashem. If that doesn't work, Chazak v'yamas libecha v'kaveh el Hashem. Because that's it. There's nobody else up there. Ein od milvadoi. There's nobody else but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He did this. He can undo it. And in the same unbelievable, unmanageable way, he can bring down the Beis HaMikdash, bring all the Jews to Eretz Yisrael, and bring Mashiach. Let this be the lesson that we need to incorporate the Ein Od Milvado into our life to be able to bring the Nemes Agula. And that's it for this week. If you want to find out more about the show, you can go to RorLofsky.com. You can leave comments. You can take back some of the terrible things you said about me. And that's about it. If you want to sponsor an episode, click at the sponsor the episode button, and that's it for this podcast, for this episode. I'm David Orlofsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.